Well, hello, and welcome to episode 223 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, if you go back to 2002, there was this little horror film that came out. I don't know how big it would have been in the UK, but it definitely kind of, swarmed over the shores here in the US, made a big splash, and 28 days later, it's a lot of people's favorite zombie film, and I might even include myself in that. A couple years later, of course, with the smash success of 28 Days Later, we got 28 Weeks Later, which, well, not as critically acclaimed and didn't make quite as much money, was still pretty successful. So it's kind of surprising that it has been since 2007 that we have revisited this world. But revisit this world, we are. 28 years later, Michaela, you ready for this one?
I'm ready, ready and have waited. It's not exactly 28 years since it was made. I wonder why they did that. Maybe they'll tell us. I don't know.
You can't really change the numbering now.
Can't change it.
You kind
No,
of committed to
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, but I wonder if they went back and they were like, all right, in 2035, or when would that have been? 2002 plus 28, so that would have been 2030. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. Look, one thing I want to talk about, and we have said this on a couple of lobby bars. The preview for this film is the scariest preview I've ever seen in my entire life. Like legit, the over you don't know what's happening. You know it's not good. You know it's in some post-apocalyptic land. You don't realize that we're talking about the 28 days, years, weeks franchise later until like a minute in. But you get this horribly like radio dude who's like 4 score and 7 years ago we killed everybody. Like it's awful and it's terrifying, and he just keeps saying it, and you're just it is absolutely terrifying. It did its job because even if I had never seen these films, I would be like, I have to go watch them. I have to sit in this theater. I'm going to be terrified to actually watch the original, like the new one, because if it's anything like the preview, it's going to scare me to death.
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to. And spoiler, we're actually going to go see it right now as soon as I hit pause. So we'll get our feedback on what we thought about the film, how it lived up to that trailer, and how it lives up to the first two installments for sure. So let's do this, Michaela. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll be right back to mix up this week's cocktail that's going to be, worthy of the zombie apocalypse. It's going to require three different gins, I guess, to represent our three different installments here of the 28 what it is, just the 28 franchise, 28 days franchise. I don't know for sure. But let's take a quick break, grab some gin, let's mix up that cocktail so we can make our way to the movie theater and take in 28 years later. We'll be right back.
So, Brian, it would not be a zombie movie without a zombie drink. Now, we have talked about this in the past. I think we've even covered a zombie before. 28 Days Later was like one of the very first zombie films where the zombies could run. And run
hmm
they
hmm
did.
hmm
And people ran to the theaters to see it. And we have now a dozen different movies out there that talk about that have the running zombie motif, right? We had World War Z, we have The Walking Dead, we have all of that. Anyway, what I
hmm
want to say is zombies are great. Zombies are generally drinks with multiple versions of rum.
hmm
I wanted to do a gin zombie. So I found a make and drink group on YouTube. It's called Make and Drink. You can find them. They do a lot of really fun stuff. And they did this gin based zombie that I wanted to share with you. It is a little involved. It's got a lot of ingredients. So you're going to want to hang with us. That's why this is not a lobby bar drink, but it is worth it in the end. It is so worth it that even the man that I was married to loves this drink and swore he would never drink gin. You
hmm
heard that here. Okay. Anthony, you loved this drink. He loved it. It was great.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I will say that 28 years later is how long it took me to get all these ingredients together for this drink, but that's okay. That's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, the zombie, it's a tiki classic, right? As you mentioned, it's basically this tiki drink, and it's based off of three different rums, right? Like a silver rum, a golden rum, and I don't know, like a blackstrap rum or an age rum. I don't really remember for sure, but we're doing three different gins here in this one. And they do a really good job on the Make and Drink YouTube channel of kind of highlighting these gins from the actual, like, I guess, original recipe that this came from. Their channel is great, so go to definitely check that out. The description will have the link to their content down here. So let's go ahead and put one of these together, and then we can talk a little bit about the ingredients. So into I did mine in like a bullet blender thing, so I just
Mm.
built mine right in there with some ice. But if not, go ahead and put this into like I don't like a measuring glass or just a glass or whatever because you're going to be blending it. So into whatever you want to put this in to start off with, go ahead and put in one dash of Angostura bitters or just like a one dash of aromatic bitters, 3/4 of an ounce of lime juice, 3/4 of an ounce of grapefruit juice, 1/4 of an ounce of ginger syrup, which is just simple syrup that you've infused with some ginger. Go ahead and just cut up some ginger when you're making it. Let it steep for as long as you want to get that ginger flavor that you desire. Then bottle that and use it up accordingly. 1/4 of an ounce of that, or go ahead and buy it if you want. A half ounce of grenadine, 3/4 of an ounce of elderflower liqueur, and then 3 ounces of your gins. So this is going to be broken down into 1 ounce increments. So we're going to talk about those here in a second. Now that you've got all this put together, throw in a scoop of ice, blend it, and then you're going to basically blend it smooth. And then serve it over some crushed ice. I used a straw for mine. I don't know how you took yours. Sip and enjoy. So, Michaela, we're going to circle back to the gins. What did you think about the flavors here versus like a traditional zombie with the rum?
So I loved this drink. I loved it. I thought it was a little busy. And by busy, I could not necessarily pinpoint like the lime versus the ginger versus the grenadine because all of those have very specific flavor profiles, right? The ginger is going to be kind of hot. I felt the heat at the end, but I couldn't taste the ginger. The
Mhm.
grenadine added some sweetness, which was good. I think also, depending on the types of gins that you pick, you could, this is a choose your own adventure in a variety of ways. I think the grapefruit was good. It added the acidity that you needed with the lime, but and you get the bitterness of the bitters, but it blended really beautifully. Like it was a very balanced drink. I really liked it. And it did not taste like gin to me. Um, I could not really, which is why I was like, hey, Anthony, you should give this a shot. And he was like, there's no way. And so he watched me make another one because he did not believe me. But this was great. I mean, it's involved, but it was worth it.
Yeah, I like this one quite a bit. It has the addition of the three different types of gin here. So let's go ahead and talk about those, and then I'll give kind of my thoughts on it. So, according to the recipe here that they're giving on the Make and Drink channel, it is 1 ounce of Tanqueray gin, 1 ounce of Heyman's Old Tom gin, and 1 ounce of Martin Miller Westbourne Strength gin. So, a couple of notes there. Tanqueray gin, that's an easy one to find. You might even have that in your liquor cabinet already. It is just a London dry gin, so you can go ahead and go to town with that. The Heyman's Old Tom gin, you may or may not be able to find. That was a special order item for me, so I was not able to get it. So I used a different Old Tom gin. Basically, an Old Tom gin. It's slightly sweeter. It's a more older style of gin. So it kind of is between like a juniper, like the Dutch gin, and a London dry gin. It's kind of an in between there. So I think kind of any Old Tom style gin that you have is probably going to work okay for you. And then the Martin Miller Westbourne Strength gin, I couldn't find that one at all. So I was reading up about it a little bit, and it said that the botanical notes included like cucumber notes, and the ABV was close to a Hendrix, which also has some cucumber aromatics in that gin. So I would swap that for a Hendrix if you're not able to find the Martin Miller. What about you, Michaela? Do you have any other insights on this, or want to tip your hand as to what you used, or were you able to find these, or?
So Tanqueray makes an Old Tom gin, but and then for the Westbourne Strength gin, they also the internets recommended if you are really a Tanqueray fan, Tanqueray 10 could work.
Okay.
I use like a Navy Strength gin that had some botanicals in it. I think what I did was Fort Pillars for that one.
Okay.
But again, really good. Which is strange to me because I was expecting this to be a bottle of booze, like 3 ounces. It's in a tall glass, but I expected this to be much more boozy than it was. So drink these with care
Yeah.
because
Well,
they pack a punch.
I mean, it's 3 ounces of gin plus 3/4 of an ounce of Saint Germain. So, I mean, you're pushing like
Yeah.
4 ounces of liquor in this. Yeah, this thing will get your head spinning for sure. Especially because gins are higher in ABV than rums would be. This was delicious. I got a ton of grapefruit and kind of botanical from the gin. That was the predominant flavor that was coming through in mine. I didn't get a ton of like the ginger. I didn't get a ton of like the elderflower in mine, and I think partially that's because it's basically like a double frozen kind of a thing,
Mm.
right? So it's really tamping down kind of that note there. And I think that being so cold helped with the gin because it kind of kept the botanicals at bay a little bit. I will say though that while I was drinking this, I kind of thought to myself that while this is delicious, I still probably would prefer the rum version to the gin version, if I
Mm.
was going to be having another one of these. But this is definitely worth trying, and it's definitely a good experiment and kind of education for yourself in using like three of the different base spirits there to really kind of play
Mm.
around with how those work botanically and how they play together and stuff like that. So I thought that it was an interesting like experiment from that end too. But yeah, this was delicious and definitely worth a try. And you can kind of taste those for yourself and decide for yourself whether you think that the gin based version is good or if you prefer the traditional zombie there with the rums.
Yeah, yeah. No, I really like this. And it says to blend it if you're lazy, like I am half the time. You don't necessarily have to do that. And I think that you'll get a lot more from of the delicacy around the gin. Um, I stirred mine and I did it both blended and not. And I think I actually preferred it not blended just because I got some of the more delicate notes. Um, but either way, I thought this was worth it. This was worth the ingredients list.
Yeah,
It was worth
for
me
sure.
making my own ginger syrup, and that's saying a lot because I don't use a lot of ginger syrup, but it was good.
All right. Well, there you go. So that is the gym-based zombie. So let us know if you mix up one of those and let us know what you thought about that one. And definitely send us pictures if you make one. But for now, Michaela, what we need to do is we need to take a quick break so we can go and gather the troops, I guess, here and come back and we can talk about 28 years later. So we'll be right back.
7, 6, 11, 5, 4, 17, 32 the day before.
Spoiler warning for 28 years later. If you've not yet seen this, you should, because we're going to talk about all the things. Now, if you've not seen the first two, 28 days and 28 weeks, you should probably also see at least the first one so you kind of know what's going on for the beginning of this one. But we're going to talk about all of the things that happen. So you've been warned. Spoiler warning complete.
Yeah, that's right. You could probably skip 28 weeks later if you don't have time to see that because anything that happens in that movie is uh,
Kind
rendered
of thrown out the
rendered
window.
rendered useless by the film here within the first couple of minutes. So yeah, this was just released, so you might not have had a chance to see it yet here in 2025. Back to direct is Danny Boyle, who directed the 28 Days Later, the first film there, and it was written by Alex Garland, who also wrote the first film there. So the duo back together to bring us some more rage tales here, I guess. So this one stars Alfie Williams as the 12-year-old Spike. Jamie, his father, is played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Isla, his sick mother, is played by Jodie Comer. There's another character we're going to talk about here as we get into the story a little bit. But Michaela, we've been talking about. I feel like we've been talking about 28 years later for a long time because I feel like I don't know, like 6 or 7 months ago, we saw the trailer for it, and we're like, well, that looks absolutely terrifying. That's going to be
Yep.
real good. So I guess, what were your expectations going into last night? Because we just saw this. I don't like we walked out of the theater like 12 hours ago ish. So.
Yeah. It was good. I don't think I was nearly as terrified as I was watching the preview. And
Mm,
I guess that's a good thing. I don't know. The previews are supposed to be like a snippet of what you're going to experience. Um, I did not feel the abject terror, except I'm in like some of the sequencing of kind of backs,
hmm.
flashbacks
Okay.
versus like just imagery. Like that stuff was kind of terrifying. Um, but this is a different animal than what I was kind of experiencing or expecting when we watched it yesterday.
Hmm. Yeah, kind of same. So the trailer, as I just mentioned, is absolutely terrifying, and of course you have Danny Boyle and Alex Garland back to do it. So I guess in my head, like I kind of imagined it was going to be kind of a I don't know, more of like a one-to-one or like a continuation kind of that first film, but it definitely held some of those same kind of threads through, but it, kind of told its own story in a way, kind of its own slant on things, which is good, I suppose, because it has been, 23 years since that first film came out, and in a lot of ways, anything that has some sort of like uh, kind of like legacy sequel or something like that, or is like a continuation of a story that you'd watched, 15, 20, 25 years ago. Like kind of in your heart, you want it to be, kind of the same, but then when that happens, like you're almost disappointed that there weren't any new like directions being taken with
Right.
it, right? So I appreciated that it was, taking kind of a different look at things while being, familiar on side, but being very different, I thought, kind of in the way that it was telling its story here in this one. So yeah, I was definitely looking forward to going to see it, and we did see it last night. So let's talk about the movie a little bit. I don't want to get into crazy details here because really it's just kind of a couple of like swaths of things that happen. So let's start off kind of on the island. We're on, I don't know, it's one of the islands. Of Scotland, like it's not like the main island. I don't think it's one of these other little island regions there. And we catch up with a couple of people. We catch up with Spike, who's
Mm.
played by Alfie Williams there, 12-year-old. I don't know if he's 12 in real life, but he was great. He was great. So I'm excited for Alfie here in this. And his father is played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. His name is Jamie, and he's going to be taking him off the island on basically like his rite of passage journey. But let's talk about the island itself here. What did you think about the way it was designed and set up and brought us back into the world, I guess?
His name is it's called Lindisfarne, which is also known as Holy Island. It's a tidal island
No.
off the northeast coast of England, which is
Mm,
weird because
okay.
I thought they were Scottish. I don't know. Maybe that makes sense. I don't know.
Mhm.
I loved the art direction here. I'd never seen something so isolated and yet so beautiful, and also um, they took into consideration that people had been born since the pandemic, right? Since the rage virus took over the world. So there are like
Mhm.
new children, there's a school. The things that are now important to them have made its way into like the culture and the fabric of the little town. And I really loved how they did that, where it's all about not wasting things. It's all about like only use what you need. It's making sure that you have, all the animals are really clean, so that, we, because they have to live off of these very finite resources. And the way that that shows in like the hills, like the little hill that has these sheep rolling around in, and the pigs,
Mhm.
and how they take the care to organize all of their clothing and all of their goods. I love the scene where we are looking at what Spike is trying to pick out and take with him on his big trip into the outland, right, onto the mainland. And he has like one toy because that's all that he has, and it's
Mhm.
like a big deal. It's almost like a crucifix, like he kisses it goodbye almost. It's really neat. But this island is just really cool, and it's terrifying because it's an island that has you're only able to get to it like, I don't know, twice a day for an hour because of the tides being low. That sounds terrifying, but also very safe if you got a bunch of rage folks who can't swim uh after you.
Yeah,
That's
that's right. Yeah. They talk about that if you're go off of this little causeway that connects the island to the mainland, basically you get swept out into the ocean because the current is really high, which makes sense if the tide's going to be coming in that fast. But yeah, I really loved the way that they set up kind of the island, the way that it operated. I like they had like these little like handwritten notes on everything. It's like, take only what you need and don't use that much water if you don't need it and all that stuff. I like that because it was kind of like reminiscent, especially like in the setting here, on this little like Scottish island or English island or whatever the case was here, of like, having like this like medieval feel to it, right? Because they're all of these old, like several hundred years old, like stone buildings. So it's kind of like
mm,
medieval feeling in a way, but
yeah,
also
yeah.
like modern in a way, because obviously, this was just, 28 years ago is when, technology stopped existing, kind of in this place. And I love stuff like that. I really liked the little kind of interaction that Alfie has with this toy there because it highlights the fact that Alfie is young, right? Like he's gathering his wares to take with him onto the mainland for this kind of like rite of passage thing that he's going to go on with his father. And he kind of picks up the toy and looks at it and puts it in his bag because that's important to him as a kid. But then, ultimately pulls it back out of his bag. Like you said, Michaela, kind of kisses it or looks at it and, puts it back down and like, some sort of like act of like reverently towards it. But, ultimately decides that, that's childish and he doesn't need it for his journey to becoming a man, which I thought was really, really kind of neat and really kind of highlighted, like the emotional place that we find the Spike in the story.
Yeah, and I really liked the layers around this, right? Like this is typical like how I felt when we watched the first Danny Boyle zombie film, right? 28
Hmm.
days later. There's so much more happening here. The whole town is like saying goodbye to Jimmy, or sorry, saying goodbye to Spike, trying to cheer him on. The council is like at the door and they are very, very clear. And I love how they set up this whole scenario so that we as the audience understand it, but also they do it very naturally because they explain to Spike, hey, listen, you're leaving here on your own. Your father will be with you. Just know it's on you to come back. We are not going after you, like ever, like
Hmm.
never. So, are you sure? And they even say, we think he's a little young. I mean, this is really like a 15, 16-year-old thing. And his dad, is like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And I think that that is part of kind of the symbolism, right? Spike feels very pressured by his family because his mom is sick. She has some sort of unknown illness. You think it has something to do with maybe like early onset Alzheimer's at first because she can't quite remember things. She gets confused a lot. She doesn't have like control over her arms sometimes. So you don't really know what's wrong with her. But his father is like, you can do this. We're gonna shoot like one zombie, and then we're gonna come back, and it's gonna be fine. And I don't know why he's so set on having his 12-year-old do it because the other 12-year-olds are going to school that day.
Hmm.
But I feel like that is really important for what happens later in the film as we look at like Spike as he changes, going and experiences this kind of occasion of his first kill and also like what happens after.
Yeah, I never really got a good like grasp on why it seemed important for Jamie to take his son out that early to do it. I don't know if it revolved kind of around the mother and Jamie knew that he was going to be, having to spend more time taking care of her in the future, the days ahead, or if he just wanted to, kind of get him out of the house because obviously that is a challenging situation for a 12-year-old to be in, seeing your mother like that and your parents like that. So maybe that is the case why. But, regardless, they end up, they go off on kind of, like we said, like this rite of passage kind of thing. The council, wish them off and say, come back, or don't, but we'll be here either way. So that's good. And then they go, and he's able to kill his first rage, infested guy there, which is good. And then of course, you run into some trouble, right? They're going through the house. I really like they go into kind of like this first like little cottage that they come across, and Jamie's like, there's probably nothing in here because everyone has been through here a bunch of times, but you still have to look every time in case you find something. And he finds a frisbee there, which is a bit playful. But I really like Jamie here as kind of the father figure in this section of the rite of passage bit here because he's very like encouraging, like he never lets Spike get down on himself, like he's like quick to like correct him anytime that Spike is like, oh, I should have shot that arrow faster, I missed, or whatever the case was. He is very like defensive and protective of Spike, definitely building him up here in this sense. So I really liked kind of their dynamic and the way Aaron Taylor Johnson played this father figure. And that gets obviously kind of propelled into some more action bits as of course anytime you take one of these out it causes a stir and everyone kind of comes running and that's when you get your more stressful parts and they end up spending the night in the upstairs attic of this place. But what do you think about this section here, Michaela, going on to the mainland the first time, both in terms, I guess, of Spike and of Jamie?
I really liked, again, the set direction's pretty great. I often think in some of these post-apocalyptic things that things are way too convenient. Um, there's cars that still work after like years of being in a barn or something, and that stuff doesn't really make sense to me. But I
Mhm.
really like some of the motifs that they have. I love that this particular house is falling apart around them, and they literally fall through the floor at one point. Like,
Mhm.
so the dangers are staying alive, because there are, perhaps rage infested zombies after you, but also like you could, you know, a, the house could fall down around you. I mean, I loved the scene where there's a bunch of deer and they are kind of um, running around into the field, like they're it's almost like a stampede.
Mhm.
But because of the shaking of the ground, half of the house kind of collapses because it's not been taken care of for 30 years, right? Like I love some of that. I think the relationship between Spike and his father is a complicated one, and I think they do a pretty good job of telling the audience that through like the silence, because they have to be really quiet. But Spike doesn't like how his dad kind of sugarcoats things. He won't really tell him what's wrong with his mom. He says he doesn't know. He says there's no doctor, and they're just gonna. This is just the way it is. They see this fire outside, and Jamie is not gonna. He's like, yeah, I saw that once. We don't go near it. We leave it alone. There's nothing there. And Spike is starting to kind of see the ideas that he has about who his dad is kind of crumble in during this. And we see more of that when they get back on to the island. So they barely make it back. And again, it's heart-wrenching because, they're at the gate and they're like, please let us in. And of course, the woman is like, nope, we're going to wait like 15 seconds. And make sure that y'all don't turn right in front of us before we open the door. And it's so infuriating, but she's real calm about it. She's like, this is the deal. It's kept us alive for 30 years. But when they get back and it's like this big celebration that is already in play, like they weren't waiting for them. They were like, we're
Yeah.
having a party tonight because y'all should be back. So, come back when you
Yeah.
can.
The
Um,
celebration, the celebration is amazing because it keeps cutting back and forth between, father son in danger, like basically,
right.
at the end of this like rope of death, and them setting up for the party. Which you kind of don't
Yeah.
realize what they're doing at first because it's just like some older women that are kind of, tidying some things up and setting out some stuff, and then they kind of unveil like this little like handmade banner that says, congratulations, Spike or whatever, and you're like, oh, they're setting up like the party for him, and it keeps cutting back and forth between, Spike and his dad almost, almost meeting
Almost
their
dead.
end, and them
Right.
setting up the party for them. So,
Right. But when they get there, Spike is really quiet. He is probably fairly traumatized. He's still a 12-year-old kid, right? And
mhm.
Jamie is, telling these tall tales about how Spike shot all of them and they caught an alpha and they shot the alpha, and, and now there's this idea of alpha. Like there's two, there's two different types of rage zombies now. There's
Mhm.
these slow ones that are like crawling on the ground and they're real fat. They look like, I don't know, they look like,
They look
I
like
don't know, they
the
look
guy
like the
from Dune.
penguin. They do. They look like the guy from Dune, or like the original Penguin from Batman
Mm-hmm.
Returns, right?
Yeah.
They're just like these tubby things that just kind of crawl along the ground searching for things to eat. But they're really slow and they're much easier to kill. And then there's these really fast ones that are like the ones that we remember from the first couple of films. So
Hmm.
Spike is angry with his dad because his dad's telling these tall tales about how amazing Spike was, and he's like, "That's not true." And then he sees his dad go off with Rosie, I guess is her name, and that really bothers Spike because now his father is not who he thinks he was for in a number of ways, right? He has no problem lying. If he's lying to everybody about how amazing Spike did, is what else is he lying about? He sees him being unfaithful to his mom. And that's really tough because on one end, as an adult, you see how Jamie is kind of torn by his watching his wife deteriorate mentally. So you feel empathetic for him to an extent, but then you're also like, dude, what are you doing? Like your kid is at this party. Did you really? I mean, it's very complicated, but this relationship really takes a turn over the course of these next few hours.
hmm Yeah, and I mean, as a 12-year-old, you see that, very, very black and white. But yeah, I mean, it's very nuanced, right? Like, because I guess as an adult person, you can kind of like you understand Jamie's, needs and desires and things like that. Given the ill health and things that Isla is in. But of course, Spike doesn't see it that way. He sees it through the lens of a 12-year-old, which is very understandable. So he ends up
Hmm.
going home and speaking. I don't know if that was meant to be like his grandfather. I never really quite picked
So
up on
that's a
that, or if it
family
was just like
friend.
an just a family friend. Okay, so an
Yeah,
older
yeah.
gentleman there who kind of spills the beans a little bit about that fire that they saw. Dad, wasn't going to tell him really much about that fire, but he tells him, and he's like, "Oh, that's where this Doctor Kelson." Lives, and of course Spike hears that and he's like, doctor, that's what I need from my mom, so let's get on there. And about that time, Jamie returns home, and they do have like a sit down. Like, again, I really liked the portrayal of Jamie as his father here, because he was, he's propping him up. He was kind of, weaving these tall tales to make Spike look more like almighty than he was maybe
Hmm.
in front of the town. But I don't think that's probably far off the course of anyone else who's been out on the same kind of mission thing, came back and are blowing a little smoke about how well their kid did. But he sets him down, and like he basically levels with Spike, right? But Spike is still hearing these things as a 12-year-old kid. He's like, listen, we went to this place where this fire was. It was like the scariest thing. Like, he watched the trailer for 28 years later when he was there or something. He's like, this is like the scariest, most like harrowing thing I've ever seen. Dr. Kelson is like a madman. We're not going there. I'm never going back there. Don't go there. That's a bad time. But of course, Spike, here's Doctor, and thinks that that is the key to getting his mom saved, and that's what's going to happen, right? He's going to get his mom riled up out of bed and head over to the mainland.
Head over to the mainland. Yeah, and again, it's tough because he does this in a way. He sets like a storage room on fire. Probably could have picked a better thing to do with that because now they're everything that's in that storage room is empty and or ruined. But
Yeah.
his mom, and they set this up okay. Like his mom cannot get out of bed when we first see her. She can hardly she can't really hold things. They're like feeding her. But then Sam says when she has good days, like she really has good days, she can walk all the way all around the field. And I guess they try to set that up in a way, but
Mhm.
I don't quite buy it. Like this is where I think I would have liked to have seen a little bit more support from this because it starts to lose it
It's,
for me because
it's a
they
bit of
have
a
to go
180.
miles. Yeah,
Yeah.
they have to go for miles, right? And they have to be quiet, and she has to like have complete like functioning faculties of her brain for half of this stuff. Now he lies to her a little bit, and he's like, "We're gonna go see a doctor," and then she realizes she's on the mainland, and um, but then of course things are gonna take a turn. They go to this weird looking church to spend the night, and one of those crawly things ends up like getting very, very close to Spike, but dies because the mom has a moment of like I don't know, functioning brain and then also can beat the crap out of one of them. Like and like
hmm
I thought again, I was like, that's great that she has that motherly instinct, but I didn't that's where to me it was like, I don't know, this part doesn't feel very authentic for someone who is like really struggling with whatever illness that she has, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It seemed a bit a bit much of a journey for someone who seemed, largely bedridden. But once you kind of get past that and you get back into the film, then it's great because it goes from like this father son kind of a tale to son and mother kind of a tale, which is very different. And they're going through, and Spike, to his credit, is being much braver now this time. Like, he has a little bit of experience, I guess, in being out there, and obviously has to put on a brave face for his mother there, who he's still not really trying to pull the wool over her eyes necessarily, because I mean, at this point she pretty much realizes what's happening, but she's on this train now, which is in motion. So you gotta keep going, and you run into some more trouble, obviously, because there are all of the rage infected zombie like creatures out there. They end up getting trapped in it's like a train car, I think
Yeah,
is what
yeah, it's a
that
train
was
car.
in. But they end up being saved by a Swedish soldier by the name of Eric, who's played by Edvin Riding, who comes in and kind of saves the day. And I really like him. I liked kind of his interactions with them, and he's trying to get things after the fact from Spike. He's trying to get things from Mom Isla there, and he's like, "Well, why did I bother saving you people? You can't help me out at all. This was terrible, terrible of me." And they talk about that a little bit. They don't really get into the details of it. Maybe that's something that's going to happen in the next part, but he says he's basically on like this naval ship, which crashed the on the rocks out off of the coast of Scotland there, right? Like Scotch on the rocks, he says. So ends up crashing, and he's like, oh, we're gonna die here, but maybe I can get back out. And they kind of go off on this little walking journey there between the
Mhm.
three of them. Anything in particular about Eric before he meets his untimely end?
Um, it's like the one bit of like comedic relief that you get because he's trying to explain things to Spike, who has never seen anything in the past 30 years. So he's like, "Oh, my phone doesn't work." And he's like, "Your phone?" And like he doesn't know what the internet is. He doesn't know anything. He takes a picture of his girlfriend and he's like, "Look at her." And Spike's like, "Ugh." Like, does she have some sort of allergic reaction to shellfish because her lips look like pufferfish? Anyway, it's that part's funny. Um, it's interesting. I find this to be kind of something that I was looking forward to seeing if we were going to go down the path of the world just kind of forgot and collectively decided that, the UK island was just going to be on its own.
Mhm.
Which when they come together, when people from the community that has been allowed to grow comes into contact with those that are stuck in this kind of post-apocalyptic life, what would that look like? And I really like that. I think also that it's incredibly graphic. The way that like the alphas decide to kill, and now we have this idea of alphas, and I have a whole thought system about that because I think that's kind of silly. But even after 30 years, but like these alphas, they don't just like eat you.
Mhm.
They like take off your brain and like keep your stem of like the top part of your vertebrae like attached, and
Yeah,
so like
it's
poor
very
Eric
Mortal
meets his end that way,
Kombat-esque.
and it is, and it's real tough because you again, no, nobody is immune to this, right?
Mhm.
Legitimately, like Eric, we end up kind of liking him, or at least coming to understand who he is, and then he's gone in a second, right? And that's terrifying, and because it's like, man, are we going to watch Spike just is this going to be a situation where now Isla's on her own in the middle of nowhere with all these mental problems and
Yeah,
Spike, who was supposed to protect her, is like also going to die? Like
yeah,
there's
for
a
sure.
very stressful,
Yeah,
very stressful.
because the alpha turns up, right, and he rips poor
Mm.
Eric's head off, and Spike is there, laying in arrows to it. But his dad had already told him he's like he takes like dozens of arrows to bring one of those things down. So of course he's not going to be any match for it. But about that time, a little blow dart, gets into the alpha, and all is well there because we're meeting our kind of final character that we're introduced to right here. It is Dr. Ian Kelson, who's played by none other than Rafe Fiennes, so that's pretty good. And he goes, and this is the doctor. This is the crazy doctor, right? That no one wanted to go around. Because of course he has like this giant like boneyard kind of a thing, but we learn very quickly that maybe Dr. Ian Kelson is not in fact a crazy person. He's doing it to, I guess, memorialize the events and the lives that have been lost and taken and floundered over the last 28 years in kind of this cathedral of bones. It's very reminiscent if you ever go to Paris, if you ever go to like the
Oh, the
catacombs
catacombs, yeah.
in Paris. It's very kind of reminiscent of that, right? You have all these bones that are made up to look like columns, and it goes into like this main pile of bones there, and you get to you get like some very like visceral like hands-on of how he's been cleaning these bones off. But I really like that then because he gets the skull then of Eric, who had died, kind of in protection of Spike and Isla there, and gives Spike the skull, and he's like, go find a good home for him, and let's Spike go off and place that skull there as we learn a little bit more about what's ailing Isla.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Look, Ray Fiennes does a great job. He's very orange. He's covered in iodine. I don't know how they found iodine. I don't know where they make iodine. I don't know how he still has it after 30 years.
He's
Again,
he's
certain
still
things we just
dialed
kind of,
in. He's still dialed into the Latin from
oh,
Conclave.
for sure,
So
for sure, for sure. Um, but he's very calming, and he examines Isla, and we get a shaky diagnosis because he's like, look, I don't have a scanner, like I don't have any of the things that I had 30 years ago, but I'm pretty sure that you have cancer and that it's spread, and you're gonna die. I'm so sorry. And he says it with like a really beautiful empathy. And Isla actually kind of speaks up and says, I thought that that's what this was. And then we realized that she had always known, but she was waiting for someone to tell Spike because she couldn't do it. It was too much for her as a mom. And as a mom myself watching this, that's when Michaela starts to go to pieces. I didn't think that I was going to boohoo my little eyes out watching this movie, but this is when it begins because Spike is kind of counseled by both his mom and Dr. Kilson and says, hey, look, this isn't going to get any better. There's really nothing we can do. There's no medicine that we can give her that's going to help her. So the best thing we can do is have her die in a way that is going to be painless and peaceful. And so they first they drug Spike with one of those darts. So he
mhm.
just kind of goes to sleep. But he gets to go to sleep in his mom's arms, and then his mom kind of goes off, and Dr. Kelson euthanizes her in a very humane way. And when when Spike wakes up, he's got like her skull that he gets to go put where he wants to, and he climbs to the top and he puts it out so she can see the sun and she can see the angel. There's this, I don't know, it looks like a piece of metal that looks
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
an angel spread out on one of the hills, and so he does that for her, and it's really, I mean, I'm an emotional human anyway, but I was boohooing like poor
Yeah.
poor Brian was like, "Are you all right over there?" I found this to be incredibly moving, because what we don't think about, or what I hadn't really thought about, and what this episode or this film displays in a really beautiful way is what happens when you are 28 years after a disaster, and how do you continue to do the things that happen normally, like in normal, in the rest of the world, people are dying of cancer. What do we do?
Mhm.
And so I really loved the layers again of this. Spike says, he stays with Dr. Kelson for a little bit. And then after they almost die from one of the alphas grabbing him, he says, dude, I think it's time for you to go home. It's you've done what you did, you needed to do. We've let go of your mom, and it's time for you to go back. And this part of the journey, it's definitely my most emotional part of the film. But I really loved the way that they kind of create like a normal thing that can happen in today's society and make it happen in this place, and have the
Mhm.
emotions and still have like the connection still be as real.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Spike is back on his way back home, right? After Dr. Kelson sends him on his way, and for some reason they don't kill this alpha guy, even though they've like knocked him out like twice. Just get rid of this guy. What are you even doing over there, Dr. Kelson? But yeah, sends Spike back home, and he goes back to the island, right, and kind of reports back in, and his father, tries to speak to him and have like kind of hash out what had happened, but Spike is still not hearing any of that and decides that he's going to leave. He's going to go back and live out his days or spend some time on the mainland. They don't really make it very clear as to like what like his intention of doing that was, other than to clear his head. But maybe there was somewhere else on the island you could have done that, which would have been safer. I don't know for sure. But ends up being cornered by a bunch of rage infected people. But lo and behold, we get another kind of savior character here. It is Jimmy. Which is great. Is played by Jack O'Connell in like the craziest like Zoot Suit Riot, if you remember those swing band days
Oh,
from
I know them.
from the 90s for sure. Yeah, kind of shows up and they take out this. He has a whole like group of people, and Jimmy is a character that is kind of revived. The film actually starts with Jimmy. They're watching the Teletubbies in this group home kind of a thing, or like daycare kind of a situation, and ends up escaping there. We see one of someone is just strung up from that first cottage that they go to, and has Jimmy is carved into like his chest there as he's hanging upside down, and kind of this upside down crucifix sort of thing. And then old Jimmy there in his very brightly colored suit and attire is also wearing a crucifix necklace upside down as well. And presumably that is what's going to pick up into the second act of this film trilogy, I guess, and we'll learn a little bit more about them. Any thoughts on that? That's been very divisive in the world of film.
Yeah, a couple of things. So the beginning, when Jimmy makes his way away, he's watching the Teletubbies, and then when we
Well, Jimmy, he's
see,
probably like 8 years old, something like that, seven,
yeah,
eight,
yeah,
something like that.
he's little, and when when they go to save Spike, they're all like dressed in like each one has a color, just like the Teletubbies. It like it's really fantastical and weird. Apparently, this guy is styled after Jimmy Seville or Seville. I'm
Seville, yeah.
Seville.
His like a is like an English like variety show host
Yeah,
kind of a thing. I know like of Jimmy Savile, but I'm not like familiar enough to have made that connection. So
yeah,
thanks
same.
Wikipedia for that.
Same. So next time, notes to the director. The people that are not English, maybe make that a little more clear. Because I was like, I have no idea what this is like, and I didn't know. I thought maybe he was like a person that was on the Teletubbies because at the
Mm,
beginning, they're all the kids are watching the Teletubbies when the rage infection kind of takes over their house and kills everybody except for Jimmy. So I thought maybe he was like a character in the show, but that's not it either. Number two, so that's my number one. Number two, he is really clean looking. Like he doesn't have a stain on his multicolored and white jumpsuit, tracksuit, whatever he's wearing. It's
mhm.
really strange, and he's got about $1,000 or a thousand different like rings on his fingers and lots of bling. And it's all very, very clean. And again, this is 30 years later. I don't know where he has the shining properties and the polishing properties to keep all of the gold and all of the jewels so beautiful. But so he looks so cartoonish. You know that you're supposed to be terrified, but I'm also like, I don't know if I buy it. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the next film because
Yeah.
uh, it just seems a little fantastical to me. And look, we've seen a lot of baddies, right? We've seen a lot of bad guys in a
Mhm.
post-apocalyptic world. So it's going to be interesting to me how this one is going to somehow like put all the others to shame in terms of either like brutality or craziness or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it was kind of an interesting thing because we saw it last night. The theater was pretty full. It was a smaller theater that we were in, but it was pretty full. But I mean there were definitely like people like audibly laughing at the end, which fair. I mean I get it because it's very like zany, but something about it like I really liked because it was just like so like out there and unhinged like that it
Oh yeah.
happened like this is like I wrapped my head around that faster than I did Isla making the 100-mile walk or whatever to that bonfire because even when they show it like in the distance and Spike's like, oh, it's not that far, and I'm like, what are you talking, that's like 80 miles away, what are you talking about? Yeah, that was good, that was good. A couple of other things I just wanted to make note of. I loved the way that they like highlighted the sky as they were going across like the causeway, which I guess they did like that on like a soundstage probably because they could control the water. That makes sense. But you'd have like the Northern Lights kind of there, like all these
Mm,
stars, which is probably something that is spectacular when you don't have technology and
mm.
electricity and things, right? It really
Right.
lets the light shine through. So I thought that was really cool imagery, and then obviously you get like that alpha like attack like running up behind them, which is really cool and stressful and things like that. So that was pretty fun, and yeah, I thought that it just looked great. It's worth mentioning. We'll not be the first people that have. Brought this up, but apparently most of this film was shot on an iPhone, which is pretty cool. And I don't know if they did that just as like a proving grounds kind of a thing, or if it just was the natural like thing to do after Danny Boyle filmed the first one with basically like handy cams that you go and buy from whatever the English version of Best Buy would have been in like 2002. So that would be like what
Tesco.
everyone would have access to right now. So
Right.
maybe that's why. But there was some like great stuff. There was like crazy like low angle stuff like up through like these like wheat like wildflower fields and stuff like that. There were like crazy angles of everything. There were harrowing looking things, like when the rage guy that is apparently not Cillian Murphy, but it looks exactly like Cillian Murphy,
Oh yeah,
there
that
that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that pops up, and I mean, that's really cool. You get like that weird like it's like the camera's like mounted on that first like rage guy, like the fat like one the
Hmm.
ground one
Hmm.
like on his back, and you see him like crawling like that's super like creepy looking
Yeah.
and weird.
Yeah.
So I mean, there was a lot of really neat stuff that Danny Boyle did just in the well, and the videographer, I should probably look that up and, give him or her some props as well because would have been the one putting those shots together. But yeah, just some really interesting stuff that Danny Boyle brought to the table there.
Yeah. Anthony Dodd Mantle was a cinematographer for this.
Okay, great.
Um, I had no idea that this was shot on an iPhone. I think you might have seen my face when you said that, and I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" Had no
Michaela just
idea.
got a new iPhone. Now she's thinking about going to make
That's
29
it.
weeks later or something.
I'm gonna go make a movie. I mean, man, if I knew it was that simple. I mean, that is insane. I wonder. Okay, I'll ask these questions after this pod. But I have so many questions now. Like small digital cameras as being used in this space. That is so cool. Um, Interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, for so to just kind of level set, I think this is a good film. I think it's worth everyone's time. If you're gonna watch it and you haven't seen the first two, just watch the first one. 28 Days Later to Here. It really felt kind of like the end of season one of Sons of Anarchy and the beginning of season two, where at the end of season one, this thing happens. I'm not gonna spoil it, but at the beginning of season two, they're like, nah, we didn't like that. We tested that
Yeah.
with audiences and they didn't like it. So we're just gonna pretend that didn't happen. And you just move on with your merry way. I feel like that's basically what happened
Yep.
with 28 weeks later. So this is good. This is a worthy sequel for sure.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. We talked about in the Patreon bonus episode that, it's hard to, it's not even like comparing apples to apples when you're talking about something that is, as monumental and groundbreaking as 28 Days Later to compare these two. Like I mentioned at the top, I really appreciated that they kind of took it in its own sort of direction while,
Yeah.
kind of acknowledging the first film, but, taking kind of its own direction there. So I like that quite a bit. And I feel like it did a really good job of like setting things up for how the story is going to continue. Like
Hmm.
it seemed like that was like as important as telling like this first kind of story is to really, get everything going here for the second installment. I don't know when that's intended to come out or anything like that. So I guess stay tuned for news on that later. But I don't know. Was there anything else that you wanted to say here about 28 years later other than our Regal Theater didn't have any cocktail stuff, so we couldn't get the
Good.
the cocktail for the for the
Couldn't
movie.
get the
So
cocktail.
the
Total
good
bummer.
one.
But that's all right. We're gonna make our
You've
own.
got like 2 weeks until like every blockbuster from the past 5 years comes out. So get your act together.
Please fix your supply chain so you can make some money because we like going to your bar. No, that's it. Yeah, this was it.
This was it. So yeah, that is it indeed. So yeah, let us know what you thought about 28 years later if you've seen it, if you watched 28 days later and loved that, or 28 weeks later. Let us know all that stuff, and if you mixed up the gin-based zombie cocktail, go ahead and send us a picture of that as well. You can do that on any of our social medias. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see episode recaps, pictures of our cocktails, links to the merchandise shop, links to the Patreon, all that stuff can be found on our website, which is www.drinkthemovies.com. Speaking of Patreon, we covered 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later and made up a really fun creme de menthe cocktail there. Was it fun? I don't know. It was minty. We made that up over on our Patreon Patreon. It's patreon.com/drink the movies. You can go there and find bonus episodes, hangouts, which we just did yesterday. As you're listening to this, that was a really good time. Cocktail chats, all sorts of stuff. So you can go check that out. It's patreon.com/drink the movies. We appreciate our patrons over there so much. And Michaela, they're going to want to make sure they're following along. Next week, we're taking a step back. We keep going like back and forth, like 30-ish years, right? So
Mm.
we did 2002's 28 days later, and now we're doing this year's 28 years later. We're going to be going back, I think, like 30 years ish,
30 years
roughly,
exactly. No,
to
exactly 30 years.
to talk about all the fashion in the world of Clueless next week, and then
Gonna
we're
be
going
amazing.
back into straight back into new releases for the next couple of weeks after that. So where do people need to go to make sure that they're subscribed to the podcast? And if they wanted to leave us a review, we wouldn't complain.
We sure wouldn't. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods. We are. I got another notification that we've made it to the top 15 of podcasts for Good Pods again, which is super awesome.
Right.
I don't know who's listening to us with that, but that's awesome. There's a subscribe button. Press that. There is a review button. You can leave us reviews. Look, we love that you all have created this amazing community of folks who love all things music, movies, video games, and a cocktail to go with it. This is the coolest job ever, and we couldn't do it without you. So thanks so much for listening. Thanks for sharing us all on the social medias. Thanks for giving us reviews, all of that stuff. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. So that is going to wrap it up for episode 223, 28 years later. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time on
Drink
The
the movies.
Movies.
You know what wasn't said in this one is that it's all left. Both the first movie and the second movie, somebody always said it's all left, isn't it? And nobody said that this time. And I was really, really sad.
Nobody said
I
it.
was waiting for it.
There was some graffiti. Good old Jimmy has his name out there. So
Oh, yeah. Terrifying. All right.